Hello, people,
Hi,
or
everybody.
Professor Colbert, to be exact. My name is Dea Hernandez,
My name's Joanna Lozano.
and we are here to speak or present our topic.
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint slash topic for the Juvenile Delinquency Project. So we're just going to get right into it. We decided to do our focus on mental health in juvenile delinquency just because we both felt like it's a problem that's not really addressed enough. So that's just the first slide. And please forgive us if we look this way because we do have our slides propped up.
Just to have
our points clear.
Yes.
Okay, so first we're going to be reading our thesis to you all. Each year, more than 2 million youth and young adults formally come in contact with the juvenile justice system. A large number of those individuals are ignored and have at least one diagnosable mental or emotional health need. So this is what we're going to be talking about in our emphasis throughout our presentation. I'll go ahead and start with my first scholarly research source. So from the journal article Health Services and Juvenile Delinquency, they spoke on how there's little to no community support. So a lot of these individuals that are coming in contact with the juvenile delinquency system itself do not have any type of support from their communities and obviously from their families either. So there's a lack of support in overall in their lives that obviously pushes them towards this. And mental health and health services are not emphasized or prioritized as important. So this is not something that is being prioritized or deemed important enough to even apply to the juvenile delinquency system, which is concerning. Next, it's the services exist but are being chosen to not be distributed. So the services are can be distributed and have the possibility to be distributed within this community and these facilities, but they're not. They're choosing to not have their services. There's no hope for the impoverished communities, and then prejudice plays a huge role into who ends up in the system.
And who gets the resources too.
Exactly. So,
for my scholarly research source, I picked an article called Adolescent Mental Health and the Juvenile Justice System by Elizabeth Boneman. So in the article, she states that adolescent behaviors normally associated with mental illnesses are often identified as delinquent without the admission of mentally ill youth. And I didn't mess that up.
No, you're fine. Keep going.
What I'm trying to say is that these behaviors, these delinquent behaviors that are actually mental health issues, are seen as deviant, and then they are pushed into the juvenile justice system when it could have easily been avoided, which is also problematic into their life.
Right.
Because this can be helped through communication or resources such as mentor groups or help groups.
Or counselors.
Counselors, yeah. And instead of dealing with those issues, they are being pushed into the juvenile justice system. Another big point that I found in my article was that the youth face PTSD when they experience physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. And many of those individuals who face those experiences are also ignored, and their PTSD is not dealt with. It is just pushed to the side, and then when they do act in delinquent behaviors, they are again pushed into the juvenile detention center, which should not be an issue, but it is. Instead of talking about the problems, they are being pushed out, and we see this happening not only with our mental health institutions, but we also see this going on in schools.
So they're not given a direct opportunity, which we'll get to that later on with the theory that we chose to connect to all of our research.
And then fewer than 20% of those individuals who need mental health who need mental health, how do I say this?
Services?
Services, they are not given the help.
Okay.
Or resources to deal with it.
I want to say, okay, so for the theory that we chose to connect to all of our research and everything, we chose the differential opportunity theory. And they focused on, how a person's access to illegitimate or legitimate means affects and shapes his or her path in life. So basically, to sum it up, what the theory is saying is that everybody doesn't get the same equal opportunity to reach success or reach services, or even a lot of people that are coming from these impoverished communities are not even aware that services like these are available because of their lack of knowledge around these issues in general. Mm-hmm. So basically, it focuses on that we do not have all equal access to legitimate means of success. That's like the basis of the theory. And then the idea that people, and usually teens in this case, from low socioeconomic backgrounds have fewer opportunities for success and will use any means at their disposal to achieve success. By any means, we mean how juvenile delinquency even happens. So these individuals that do not have these opportunities, that are not educated on different ways of life, tend to have to act on survival, and that ends up making it worse for them because they end up a victim to the system. So yeah, that's that about that.
Next, I'm going to talk about the next slide, which is a problem within the United States. As I did my research, I thought it would be interesting to compare the number of mental health facilities compared to our current total number of detention centers. I found that there is about 12,200 mental health facilities that are currently open. And out of those 12,200, only 689 of them are identified as psychiatric hospitals. And then compared to our federal prisons, state prisons, and local jails, 172,020 were federal prisons, 1,248,167 in state prisons, and 682,043 in local jails. So that's a total of 2,102,230.
You're doing I was like, wait. I can do with these numbers. These are huge numbers.
Detention centers versus the 12,200 mental health facilities and hospitals open to treat individuals with their mental health issues. So you can see there's a big gap, and there's a very huge gap within the United States. So as you see, we don't as much as we say we try to help advocate for mental health, the statistics show otherwise. There is not enough support for mental health. Instead of dealing with mental health, we'd like to label their acts as delinquent when they are actually and deviant when they are actually mental health issues where that could be helped with available resources.
And we're not saying that these resources can fix their lives completely, but it's an option that they otherwise would not have.
It's a step in the right direction.
Right, and it's an option that they otherwise wouldn't even have. So for the solution, to make it a little shorter than what we wrote in our slide, basically just establishing a system of care focused on meeting the mental and related needs of youth who get in trouble with the law through comprehensive community-based services and support. And I think it's also the perspective that we're seeing it from too. So also the system needs to see them more as humans than just inmates, and see how their age influences and reflects their understanding of the world, as well as the actions that they are taking, because a lot of these kids are really acting based off of
their experiences,
survival experiences, and survival trauma.
Like we mentioned before, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a thing for kids too, believe it or not, but it is. It's very visible in their lives, especially after they have faced a traumatic experience. Right. One of them that I read on my article was gang violence dealt by parents. So one student actually saw his dad murder another individual of the rival gang, and after that experience, he was facing a lot of post-traumatic depression and stress, and so he was then acting out in certain ways that were not normal, but they weren't being dealt with in the right way. And the police officers would not help him cope with that. Instead, he got put into a detention center.
So in conclusion, to all of our research and stuff, I do feel and believe that there needs to be a reevaluation in the areas of how we're dealing with these students and or these individuals and how we're treating them, not only just as people, but to realize that they have deeper stuff going on within their lives that make them act this certain way, and we're the ones that are giving them this society and these circumstances. I'm not saying that the system should be responsible completely for their actions, because parents need to be held accountable as well, but there needs to be a balance in between, because clearly we're not seeing that right now, especially in the mental health department, which is extremely, extremely important.
And the statistics show that. The numbers show that.
Right. So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed our research as much as we enjoyed doing it and conducting it. So thank you.
Thank you.